Hello, everyone. It's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5, Mondays on Facebook, and all things healthy. Really, there's so much to talk about regarding healthy that at times I still want to say there's a lot because of the information, the number of books that are out there, the number of articles, the number of areas that we have to talk about in health, from antioxidants to mindfulness and everything in between, and including all the various things that actually cause us stress. And a big thing that kind of comes across when I'm thinking about stress, and stress comes primarily those events and things that happen in our life, and that could be a death of someone. So recently, my stepbrother had passed, and there was a situation where they didn't know, perhaps, but it wasn't looking good. And I have to say that the experience in this short span of time is been just kind of feeling with it, just sitting with it, is amazing. Just how many sides of it means that we're just kind of bringing forth a good feeling, a love, a sharing. So whether it's I'm sorry or my condolences or sending you good, energy, all of it is a way for all of us to kind of step into that compassionate, empathetic, and I think it all boils down to the love that each and every one of us has inside of us. And if you can keep it as simple as that, then for me, I don't fear death anymore. I mean, it comes, it happens, and since I've been working on the workshop, Lessons in Nature, our nature on this planet Earth, sees the ending of things, we can say the death of things, the change of things, from seasons to just the wildlife living, and you have to feed and eat. And then our own human, and actually recently having conversations about us humans not being animal. We're not animal, but there's probably a lot of similarities according to genetics anyway, even to do with insects. So nature has it that there's some sort of a cycle, call it life at its simplicity, life, and it goes in cycles. And as I've talked to breathing into people, breathing in, whether it's after the Forest Hill Walk Club, or it's to do with the YDAN, or it's to do with managing stress, breathing in nature is, turtle breathe a whole lot slower, so therefore they have a longer lifespan. And the dog has so many more breaths, let's call it 7, and in line with when we think of age, they breathe 7 times faster on average. And maybe it's the larger dogs that breathe that much more faster. That 7 is similar to the caloric number that they have just painted on all calories from fat. So calories from fat are not all the same. They can be 4, they can be 7, yeah, they can be 9, but they're not all the same. So breathing for dogs, for instance, is maybe some's faster, some slower. And so 7 is, for St. Bernard, they live a lot shorter lifespan than, I remember I had the Malamute, and that would have been 10 or 11. And some dogs, I remember my grandmother dog, Beauty, I think it was closer to 19 years. So I think kind of what I kind of want to bring in this whole thing about stress, circling right back to stress, is how we look at any situation, any event in our life, from from death that just kind of happened, and then also, how do we look at somebody, I guess butting in, the car, right? And what I hear more and more is is regarding those things is kind of putting into perspective that, Western world kind of problems, and we can look at many things in the world differently when we think of the perspective of just that. So I want to thank everybody for those wishes, and I would have never have guessed there would have been that many, but the number doesn't matter. What was clear is the love, the attention to sharing a few words, to caring, to having compassion. And I mean, even just for our own selves, when it happens in our own family, how the compassion and the love comes out. And I know his 3 daughters, my nieces, the 3 of them, they're 18. They've learned a lot in their lifetime. Their mother passed when they were about 5 or 6. And it's important that for everyone here, I know there's loss for everyone, and yet we're all finding the time to send our wishes and say kind words. So even though I know the situation is happening, for me, I instantly feel and send it back to the people that are sending it to me, because I know or understand, or quite possibly they've had this happen in their life as well, whether recently or years of past. And we, the memory of these things are the memory of these things. We can surely have fun and play and holidays and times, but there are going to be times where we're going to remember things at kind of that level. And even somebody, hello everyone, Ivan and Anthony, Richard and Dan. Even for, just, put mine in perspective, but it's not about something being more tragic than others. It's just the support, the support that we can support each other and give kind words or be there or ask if we can help, and the hugs and the, the phone calls. In their case, they had, a lot of the neighbors bring over food. But yeah, at these times, we come together at so many different levels. If it's a few kind words, great. If it didn't, show up, show up for some, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't have wished you anything. And then there's all the family and who calls and doesn't find out. And, it's really, I think, important that we just accept that, there's a lot of caring and love out there that maybe we only think it kind of comes out at this time, but it's all out there probably more often than we get to share it, right? Because how many people even share, and whether or not on social media do we get to see everybody's scenarios and stories? I know I don't, absolutely, but it definitely, when it comes up, we're commenting. So I just want to kind of talk to how that can be morphed. The stress of these events can be actually morphed in feeling the compassionate and the love and the memory. I mean, at study in Ireland, just a little bit of story about death in Ireland. For many, many, many years, they would have, of course, they have pubs. And these pubs wouldn't just be pubs. They would be pubs in the front, maybe some store, goods, merchandise, and whatever be there, maybe a pharmacy. They kind of join these things. So go in and get your, whatever they'd have, Band-Aids or whatever they'd have at the pharmacy in those years. But in the back was actually the funeral parlor. And so, of course, they served drinks and they celebrated. And we actually see this more and more coming back, where we're acknowledging the pain and the feelings that people go through at these times. Again, back to love and compassion. And but instantly, the events of the past are memories anyway. They're all memories. So being there, so pastors, ministers, whatever, are saying things differently in the services. right? And they're calling the, celebration of life and coming together and talking about memories as to, instead of kind of just focusing on it's a loss, it's a loss, it's a loss, and accepting life again, getting back to the circle of life, just how life works at all levels of nature. All trees can't live forever. At some point, some live longer than others. They're going to perish and become part of the earth. Yeah, so many things around, just so fears in themselves are fears that we may have a fear we're going to miss them, or there's that heavy feeling of loss. And I think at any rate, a person individually has to go through that for themselves. They have to work that out. Call it the grieving process, but calling it more of a loss of, a card partner, or a loss of, I don't know, you could do anything together. Any of the memories, the loss of, there's a favorite dish that only they can make that well. So we tend to go through those process, those thoughts of what we're losing out on or what we're missing. But now I want to kind of flip it right upside down. And I often would say this to some people. I know I'm not dead yet, but I'd say this to some people. Look, if I kind of turn it around when people die, whether it's grandparents or uncles, and if they, if it works out that they are aware of what's going on, would they want us to be sad? Would they want us to be mourning to standpoint that it affects our health, or that it affects our life indefinitely? And now, if I were, if that were me, the parish, and I could actually look down upon the various people that are close to me, I would say absolutely not. Life goes on. Do what excites you. Live your life to the fullest, because that's what either I did, or that's what I would want for you, and I didn't do that. Something like that, right? So I think, I think that's an important piece there, is if they could speak to us after the fact, what would they say? Would there be the same drama? Would we think there'd be drama, or do we think they really want our life and our health and to go on and so forth? But again, you're processing all this loss of memories, loss of all these different things. They may very well be trying to send us love, and trying to send us the very positive things to be supportive. And you hear this in different ways, in different stories, and people know that. So at all times, I think it's just being mindful of the different perspective, being there for each other. And it's an awesome opportunity to show love, to be in that position, whether we know each other very well or we don't know each other very well. It's those feelings and emotions and compassion that is reminded we have, and we can be with it and grow it. And so I think it's in some ways, a very interesting time to see all the different sides of it, and to reach out for help or ask for help. But I was at the walk club when I chose to go to the walk club, because I know I can. But, just thinking about his daughters more than anything, I started getting teary-eyed, and it's like, whoa, okay. People would talk and they go, what are you there? And I just had to look at them and say, this is a great distraction today, people, let's just have a great walk. And, I'm okay. But of course, one of the things I was thinking about as I was talking to family off and on was, I wrote a story for the other stepbrother that passed about 6 months. So I'm really feeling for my stepmother, what she's going on and having to lose your children. But then I go into the thing I was telling my sister is that, he's with his father. He was only a young boy when he lost his father. So some of the peace that I was feeling around all of this had to do with him being with his father that he never got to know. So then, I started thinking about, a song. And the song title is called Hello, Father. And I finished writing it for the most part, although I kind of review it. But wow, that was helping to release some tears, tears for the children and stuff. So, big hunk for, Mama Jean. So it's, it's great to see all the love and the compassion. And I think that's only going to be helpful for our planet, no matter what it is. The concerns around climate change, any concerns. So in some ways, what's more important is that we learn to be ourselves and that we enjoy love to the fullest every day. That might be even just sitting and enjoying the rain. For some, that might be that. It could be so many different things. But yeah, live life to your fullest, whatever that means. So in some ways, some of the few things I've kind of wrote down here for Live at 5 kind of went out the window. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was, I talked about the herbs. So not necessarily to change the subject, but loving ourselves and using these natural remedies and taking care of ourselves is, self-love, right? So kind of going from love and putting love out there, but to self-love. And some of these natural herbs are so simple that we've kind of gotten away from the blessings, the nature that is all around us. And, parsley was last week, but this week is actually clove. And clove, for most of us, we may have heard that, it's good to put in food, of course. You can put it in beans. So if you're doing some beans, I just did some baked beans. Clove can be whole cloves in that case. But anytime you're doing something where you're boiling or anything, you can just throw a few cloves in and you can take them out. Now, in the case of the baked beans, interestingly enough, because they're stewing for 12 hours, they just meld in. So we're eating them and we don't know it. But clove powder, the crushed clove is ground clove, is very good for muffins and things, baked goods, that kind of thing, a little bit. Cloves goes in a lot of things. The whole clove, though, to get back to some healing things, you can boil some clove and drink the water, swish it in your mouth. But the whole clove itself, as simple as that, is a breath freshener. But really what it's doing, it's working against the bacteria. And the bacteria, so antibacterial, antimicrobial, I guess you could say. And what you do is you just pop the whole clove in there and you moisten it with your saliva, put it under your tongue. If it's this tooth over here or if it's that tooth over there, that you're going to put the whole clove in that area and you're just going to moisten it. And if you're thinking it for your breath, then what you would do as it softens, you would just chew on it gently and feel, just to release those oils, release the things that are going to be very helpful. So your homework, I know everybody possibly tried the parsley, and I think it's just amazing to have parsley in your fridge at all times. And I talked about how you keep it. Cloves is very simple because it's very dry, so you're just going to keep it in your spice cupboard kind of thing. But keep it around because there's definitely some quick remedies with that, and very, very helpful. It's very, very strong. But then after you you're finished with it, whether it's for your breath or if it's for toothache, then you just spit it out kind of thing. But yeah, that's very simple for the clove. It's medicinal, but it's actually culinary, the big word for things that are culinary. And so cloves, obviously it's a spice, so you just have to be careful with clove oil. Many of these herb oils, if I haven't said this already, medicinal, that's the clove. You can use that for, gum, toothaches, that kind of stuff. But when you get into the actual oils themselves, be it, I can call it essential oils, you have to think about the difference. They're just that much stronger. And if they're medicinal oils, then you best know what you're doing, because they can be volatile, be very burning, like oregano oil can be very, very, in fact, it feels like it's taken off the mucous membrane or something when I've experimented with it. But you can put it in a little water and then swish it around. But, swallowing that ongoingly can have an impact, these volatile herbs. But some of these oils can absolutely be used in massage, a little bit different there than kind of going internally. And also for the infusers, where you have this combination of oils and it's just coming in, steam very gently. So I want to just make sure that parsley, no big deal. We're not so familiar with parsley as being so medicinal, although it can be used on a plate, if you've eaten food. And I don't know if you remember, I do remember being younger, and a piece of parsley there. So when you finished your meal, you would chew on some parsley greens, and that will kind of clear your palate. And that's one way to do it. Or in the fancy restaurants, and sherbet or sorbet, that kind of thing as well. But the clove, more medicinal over parsley, and can be used in the mouth. And you can do, part of Live at 5 is really just giving you some of these simple ideas, these simple things, and you can dive into it further and look into it. But it has other medicinal properties as well. I'll try to find a good article and then post the link there. But hello, everyone. What I also wanted to dive into, kind of like the third thing that I think is important, is actually the free time. What do you do for your free time? And I think that is a bit about self-care, and that's loving yourself, is to actually take note of the things that you like to do, the things you would do in your break, in your free time. So actually schedule, or they say, and I remember my marketing teacher would say schedule, some time in the week. If you're not used to it, start off with an hour or two. And that could be the bath you never take. Not everybody likes baths, so it doesn't have to be that. It could be the walk, just walk around the neighborhood. It could be some drawing. So it could be in the way of movement. It could be cultural, going and checking out the AGO or the museum, for a morning. But just kind of stay. It could be reading your book, and some of you might already do that, and that's definitely self-care as well. But change it up a bit. Change it up a bit. You may be very good at reading a book all the time and something to go to bed and it's relaxing, but add in, something else, something different. Just ask yourself, what could I do this week that would be different than I would usually do in my free time? But if you're very good at scheduling free time and you're very good at doing some self-care, not the cooking, not the cleaning, but and that can be all part of your scheduling, but just something you would like to do, and something fun, maybe something adventurous, something little. It could be anything. It'd be there's a couple girls here. I was doing the YDAN demo, and they said, well, kind of like last minute, let's go up and check out the new store that has these organic skincare products. It's kind of like a fun, spontaneous thing in that case, but there might be something you want to check out and explore and learn. Could be that. Yeah, anything, but schedule something if you don't already do that. And then you can expand on that, expanding on your self-care, your, loving yourself from just this free time on an ongoing basis is, traveling, and that could be a weekend, that could be a holiday, that could be something different, but getting away. It's about getting away of your usual habits, your routines, perhaps, really stepping away from, if you've got, some work that, don't like, you have enough time to do, enough things you'd rather do, but, pays the bills, right? So it's all perspective on that case. But to plan, and it could be just a day thing too, just to get out of the city even. I think this hiking and walking and exploring speaks volumes, and that the average person that can do a light walk or a walk, some of them, you're walking 100 meters into a waterfall that you wouldn't see from the road. Very short things. So here in Toronto, this is a very good start. Even in your city or wherever you are, there's these parks. And some of them might be bigger. In this case, near me is Ravines. In the case of High Park is here. Not a lot of, a lot of people go to High Park, but there's still a number of people, as I've been exploring on the whole walking thing and walking holiday, that they don't bother to go in. And I think that's a great way to, yes, get out of the house, but to explore nature, get into nature and the fresh air, some fitness, and you never know what you need. It might take you to a coffee shop that you see in High Park. They do have the Grenadier, if I'm saying it right, cafe. And they actually have lunch and stuff there, or something light. But the idea is to start mulling over and giving your idea, coming up with ideas for yourself. Bring a friend, or, bring a family, bring a spouse, bring a partner, bring, people with you. And if they don't want to go, be comfortable with going on your own. Obviously, the time of day is going to be of importance. Better to do it in the daytime. Many of these parks are lit, but not as grand as some. And there's all this wild animals and coyotes. So I'm very mindful of walking dusk or dawn because these animals are more, but that kind of stuff. But that's really, I did have your free time options to talk about that, the Cloves, and then getting into all this caring and sharing and love feelings and just all those kind words and stuff. Hi Vern. Hi John. Hello everyone. So just just things for you to think about, because what's the other side of the coin? The other side of the coin is thinking about things that are not good that's happening out in the world, and just having a conversation with somebody I've known for probably 10 years. It has to do with the raw seal oil, but a number of the people that I've worked with in that, we've become friends. And so we just had kind of like a conversation, and it's about looking at what's happening in the world, not just kind of this, loved ones leaving us, but some knowing more of this crazy stuff going on than others. And I think this is where the balance is in somewhat. It's great to be aware, and not all of us have to be aware of every little detail. In fact, I kind of avoid the imagery sometimes, I have to tell you. It is so true when you've learned to kind of clear your mind and live in that space more and more. The images, you don't have all these images come in there, but when you go to watch a crazy movie, or something comes on the news, or somebody shows you something, or this picture pops up, it's a bit of work to try to get that image to just disappear. And I work on it and the thoughts, but it is there. And for all of us, that imagery is there. So I would just say, be careful what you watch. Be careful what you look at. Be careful what people show you, because this imagery will, and it does. And I've had the experience where it'll come in when I'm sleeping, and I know my dreams are very much correlated to some of that, and I can just, kind of what I could say? It's almost like a mist. It's, these thoughts, and I just imagine it like the fog, the mist, and it just kind of disappears. That's my tool for kind of getting rid of it. But yes, so as much as you can think images that are positive, or again, have these feelings of positive, the love, and, the hugs, and make your hugs longer, and just focus on the love and the compassion that's out there, or at least embrace it when it comes about. Anything happy, anything funny, any humorous, those kind of things, many things. Just enjoy that space, and just, embrace it, and try to take in that image of that, so you can actually have that imagery coming in more and more. And I think this will be, to just expand on all of this. This is going to be helpful for each and every one of us. We're talking about good things. We're sharing good things. We are talking about good stories. We're, sharing good stories. That just kind of is uplifting and can only be a good thing. But events and everything kind of happen, and that's where being in the know, or being prepared, or being safe is a good thing. If you can be safe without the fear, even better. That is possible, to be safe without actually taking it to worry and fear. It's a practice. I never said it was going to be easy, but it is practice. So yeah, John Russell, yep, we get bombarded with really nasty pics that can lead to nightmares. Like you, I try to fill my life with positive, supportive people. And so John and anybody else that's aware of that, more and more people are just making other choices and making other decisions and letting things just fall away. We don't have to tell them we're letting them fall away. We don't have to make a big deal of it. Really, we don't. The idea that we have to share in everything about our life to become vulnerable, when that came about with Let's Talk and Me Too movement and stuff, which is kind of a crazy time, I would often share to people, even my clients in counseling and stuff, that just understand that you're not alone. And even that itself can bring comfort. You don't have to go out there and spill your story to that, to that degree. Some want to, and some did. And some, that was very helpful in our release, but we really don't have to. We can just let it all happen, and that is okay too. Sometimes we pull in different words, and we think, well, that's what we're supposed to do. But I'm saying you don't really have to do that. But it will happen, and it will give comfort to those that are going through things or have gone through things, to feel more at peace. And if they can release, because they're not alone, they have this more support and can be supported at a distance even, that is great. That is great. But I think by now the aloneness can fall away as we share more and more that, many things have happened to many people. We're never alone. So from depression to rape to all these kind of crazy events, there's no being alone, because if you think about it, you're not alone. No, none of us are alone. The many things are happening to people more than any just one person. And there may be unique circumstances, as health, as I know the root cause of disease, that's in my book, but the uniqueness comes in. We can't take the responsibility away, and the uniqueness, the stress, the thoughts, all those kind of things that bring on the stress. the beliefs, that's all unique. So there's similarities and sameness and likeness, and we're all together in this, and everything's the same and everything's one, and you just can expand on that. But at the same time, there is the nothingness. There is the kind of, how do I want to express it? There are the differences, right? So there are the differences, and this is where I think much of the confusion can come in, when we have to take sides from our own experiences. And so what I would like to put out there to everybody is be mindful of taking sides. And I've talked about this, I think I talked about this a couple of times, is that there's so many things where we feel we have to take sides. The middle of the road, the stepping back and seeing both sides, sometimes gets lost in this whole thing. They're lost in arguments, which is why they don't talk about religion. There's so many differences, and people who are in strong beliefs about anything, there's that openness to hear of somebody else's sides. But that's the thing. It's just, I hope more and more people are, seeing both sides of things and coming together. That's what I've talked about the vaccines. Most people want to be healthy. Most people want things to be safe. And I think we all want that. Not to get into the vaccine topic, but the topics out there quite often are not as, they are complex. And so that's why we get all into the arguments. One side doesn't know the other side, or it doesn't matter. We're just kind of in there. So if we can come together on some very key things, then you probably find a lot of things that you're just having conversations. You're not having arguments anymore. You're having differences of opinions. And I think that's a healthy thing, to have difference of opinions, because you can hear somebody else's side, and we are not getting all worked up and breaking up friendships and whatever else can come about these things. But that's all I kind of want to talk about today, really, is be careful what you watch. Be careful what you're watching all the time, and especially before you go to bed. So images, for those people trying to be in a better space more and more, which these people, they don't watch news. It's a phase, I'll call it. It was a phase I went through. That might be what it takes, is you just got to be careful of the imagery. So it's one thing to hear that somebody was in a car accident, and it's another thing to actually look at the pictures, the images from that car accident. It changes it up, and how the mind works. So not to go into all of that, but just be mindful. If you watch a movie, be mindful of the images and what went on in the movie thereafter. And I'm not going to say thereafter is in a week or two. It doesn't last that long, and for some maybe it lasts less. But for the hours afterwards, and if you go to bed, pay attention to what kind of images kind of come in. Just, again, this is just being aware. It's not about necessarily doing anything, but just be aware how these images work. And then, of course, what you're doing in your mind and your thoughts are thinking about something on that nature, and not the pleasant things that would fill that gap, right? Because you can't really think of two things at once. It's you can, but quite often, we're jumping around. But anyway, see what happens there. Any input or any comments on that, feel free to comment on here at Live at 5, or private message me if you don't want to be here. But I want to thank for everybody for coming on board here Live at 5, all things healthy. They'll be all put up on YouTube, just kind of another way to go back in history and see if there's anything that kind of grabs your eye. But we're all in this together, everybody. And no matter what happens, there's always love there. It's just a perspective. And give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling anyway. Don't try to change that. And anything else? Yeah, cloves. So that's your herb of the, or spice of the week, so that you can make sure you have some in your cupboard. Explore it with as a breath freshener, or be there for your home first aid kit, that kind of thing, right along there beside the aspirin if you have aspirin. And it'll always be there. So thanks again, everyone. Best of health. And I look forward to next week live at 5. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now, everyone.